Hello, 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 and welcome to the first teaching of business therapy. I am your business therapist, Ryan Gillen, and I am delighted to be here with you today to teach on the subject of the energy game. So, I am, first of all, just want a big thank you to Dan and Melissa and Peyton for bringing me in to do this. And I want to share this with you guys because I've worked with in a lot of organizations. About 60% of my clients are realtors, and I work in a lot of different industries. And well, I find that this information and this conversation is becoming more and more popular. It's definitely forward thinking. Like you're definitely working with and for early adopters. And I think that just says so much about where you are, about the team that you're a part of, and about the work that we are going to do together. So I'm just excited to be here with you. I'm going to tell you my story kind of throughout. I find that resonates more as I pull out the different topics rather than talking about myself for an extended period of time. But what we're going to do today is we are going to lay the foundation of how to play the energy game. How to play the energy game. What is the energy game? How do I play it? And what do I do about it? So the way business therapy will be delivered is actually have 6 lessons for you. So this is the foundational lesson. This is the basis of what we're doing. And then in the next 5 lessons, we're going to go deeper into maybe some of the resistance or the objections or the questions or the things that you are experiencing as you start implementing this work. Okay. I know that inside of Kansas City Realty, you guys view your businesses as business owners, right? Really focusing on growing a business, growing something sustainable, growing something exciting, and not just thinking of yourself as a realtor, as a salesperson. And not that those are inherently bad, but I want you to take this content through the lens of as a business owner, right? Like really view this as you're the CEO here. And these ideas are for you to take and to implement. Okay. Because we're going to focus on improving the inner game. Specifically today, energy, identity, and nervous system regulation. Okay. So business therapy is designed to fundamentally change your relationship with success, with money, with achievement, with love, and with ultimately yourself. And what I want to tell you as well as we go on this journey together, it's not actually about fixing anything. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken in any way, shape, or form. We're actually just going to change how you experience life and business so that you can create something different if that's what you desire, right? When the internal experience, when what we're experiencing inside of us changes, the results change as a natural byproduct. That's a pretty foundational part of this work. But we're really looking to how do we change that relationship with success? Because we all have thoughts and feelings about success, right? We say that we want success, but then we judge successful people, right? We say we want to be successful, but then we freak out that if we're too busy, well, we won't have time for the things we want to do. Right? We say we want a lot of money, but then we judge people with money. We say we want a lot of money and then we tell ourselves we're bad at money, right? We have these really weird relationships. Maybe you have a weird relationship with achievement, right? Like you doesn't matter how much you do and how much you achieve. It's never good enough, right? Maybe you this love-hate relationship with love where it just things seem to go weird with you, right? We all have weird relationship with these things. And what I want to do is I want to change that relationship because when you change your relationship with these things, you're naturally going to change the way you show up in your business. Okay. So the first ask, I have one very big ask. That's a lie. I think I'm going to make you a couple asks for you today. But the first one is I need you to suspend the need for a result out of this program. I'm going to ask you to suspend the need for something outside of you to change as a part of this program. I am not asking you to suspend your desire. Whatever it is that you wrote down in your 2026 business plans, when you write down your goals, what you want in your business for your family as far as production and GCI and what you take home and all of that, right? Like, I want you to desire that. I want you to let go of the need for something to change because desire creates openness, right? When you think about the business that you're building right now, what does it feel like? When you think about the goals that you've written down for the year, does it feel exciting? Does it feel fun? Does it create open and creative and flexible, right? When we are desire something, it feels full of possibility. When we need something, we create pressure and tunnel vision and force, right? And when we operate from need, we have a hard time making really good decisions, right? When we operate from need, we're stressed out, we're anxious, we're overwhelmed, everything feels heavy. And when we can operate from desire, we can focus on building a sustainable business. Okay. This distinction is really, really important. Okay. There's a difference between desire and need. I love your desires. I'm asking you to suspend your needs. And I understand that is a different ask, but this is a different conversation. So first I want to tell you, before we really dive in, the origin of business therapy, if you will. Actually a friend and a client, her name was Courtney Benson. She's a realtor down in Dallas, Texas. She found me on TikTok in May of 2024. And she reached out to me and she said, I don't know what you do, but I think that I need it. And we got on the phone and she proceeds to tell me that the year before she had a $30 million year, $30 million in production, right? And January 1 rolls around and she's like, Ryan, I was a mess. I just cried and I cried and I cried. Like, how am I going to do this again? Like, how am I going to do this? Do I even want to do this again? It was so stressful and it was so crazy. And now I felt like eyes were on me and everybody was watching me and I felt all this pressure. And it was so bad that she actually went on to really not do much in Q1 of 2024. And so she finds me in May in 2024 and we start working together on the work that I'm going to give you here today. It wasn't packaged up like this, but in this type of work, in the energy work, like, and how do we become an energetic match to what you're building, and completely change the course of Courtney's business in a really beautiful way. And so out in the world, when she would talk to people about our work together, which she was so beautiful and kind and blessed me in such big ways in talking about our work together, she started telling people she had a business therapist, right? She was like, I don't like the word coach in this industry. It feels weird. It's just not for me. I'm not a fan, right? Like that's not, it's not what I want. And so she told people I was her business therapist. And so I loved that idea. I played around with it. But the program came about 8 months later when I realized I was starting to see patterns, right? When I realized I was starting to see the same conversation over and over and over again. And I was having the same conversations. And I was like, I can actually put this into some really specific topics and give you some frameworks and some ways to wrap your brain around this to kind of see what the pattern is. So the pattern that I was seeing is that people were successful on paper, right? Things going well, capable of doing the work, right? Above average in a lot of different ways, but actually not fully enjoying the life that they built, right? So I saw a lot of that. Like, I'm winning, I hit the goals, business is okay, it grows, it's fine, but I don't like, when is enough enough? Or I don't really love it here. And then on the flip side, I would also run into people who are like, I have more talent in my like little finger than everybody else in this room, but like, why is my business not growing? Like, why am I not living up to my potential? So these two patterns kept showing up over and over and over again. And I found that the approach to breaking through those patterns was very similar. Right. So business therapy actually really bridges mentorship and personal transformation because I want to support both performance and fulfillment. Right. The work that we're doing here, it's going to impact your business. It's going to impact your income, but it's also going to impact your life. Right. To me, it does me no good to help you be a high performer if you're miserable. So for me, this work is about how do we support both performance and fulfillment? Because it is not enough to just have a business that makes a lot of money if that business is stressful, if that business is heavy, if that business is hard, if you don't want to work in that business every day because it exhausts you. That's not going to work. Right. But we also don't want to go over here and get to the point where we're so obsessed with doing things we love and enjoy that we're not optimizing the performance in the business. So we're going to bring those two things together. That's what business therapy is designed to do. How do we make sure we achieve the things we desire to achieve without sacrificing ourselves, without sacrificing our goals, our hearts, our souls in so many ways, right? So I'm going to introduce you to some words that I'm going to use very frequently throughout our time together in our coaching sessions, in these teaching sessions. I talk about the mind game versus the energy game, right? And this is basically the central framework of the entire program. A lot of times it's like, are you playing the mind game? Are you playing the energy game? So the mind game is actually the game that most people are currently playing. I'm going to be honest with you. If you've never done this kind of work, you are probably playing the mind game. The mind game includes overthinking. A whole lot of thinking, problem solving, figuring out, a lot of logic, things that make sense, right? Things that we should do, things that we could do, things that are duplicatable, right? A lot of hustle, a lot of mental gymnastics. I make a decision and then I change my mind. I could do it this way. It's like you're constantly thinking all of the time. That's where most of us live. We are thinking all of the time, but we're not thinking on purpose, right? We're just kind of chasing thoughts down rabbit holes and getting anxious and spiraling and freaking out and pulling ourselves back and negotiating with the voice in our head. And it's not serving us in any capacity, but this is how 99% of the world lives, right? The game that we're going to talk about, the tools that I'm going to give you over our time together is the energy game. Right? The energy game is understanding that is actually our energy that creates not just action and effort and logic and strategy and problem solving. And I'm going to talk to you a lot about what makes up our energy, what makes up our Wi-Fi signal, right? So the energy game includes understanding our energy, understanding that energy creates a frequency, right? So universal law, there's two basic universal laws that I teach on often. It's law of vibration and law of attraction, right? Universal laws, just so you know, there's about 10 to 12 of them that are, again, They call them universal laws for a reason. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what the circumstances are, these are true. And one of them is the law of vibration. The law of vibration says that we are all energy, right? We are all made up of more energy than we are of matter. So whether you look at this from science, whether you look at this from spirituality, there are very few forces in the world that refute that this is not true, that there is way more to us than these meat suits. There's way more to what's happening in the world than the five senses can sense. And everything is energy all of the time. You are energy. I'm energy. Money is energy. This desk is energy. This microphone is energy. The sound that you're hearing is an energy and it comes through in a sound wave, right? Like there's so much happening outside of our five senses. That's universal law number one, law of vibration. Universal law number two that we're going to talk about is the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says the energy we put out is the energy we get back. Right? That is what like unto himself is drawn. So when you, this energy, this you that is more energy than you are matter, you are emitting a frequency. And that frequency dictates your life. It dictates your results. It dictates what you see because you're only going to see what you are an energetic match to. That's universal law. So creation through frequency, universal law, identity. The energy game includes a lot of identity. Who do you believe yourself to be? How do you see yourself? How do you move through the world? I'm going to talk about that a lot today. And when we align our frequency with our desires and our identity with our frequency, with our desires, we start to experience things very, very differently. Success is something created through your internal state. It's created by the energy you put out just as much as it is by your effort and your strategy. How do we know that this is true? We know that this is true is because you can give 100 people the exact same tools, the exact same resources, the exact same scripts, the exact same technology, and they will all get different results. So if effort, strategy, tools, tech, and technology were the deciding factors, quite frankly, there would be a lot more successful people in this world because we have more access to information than we've ever had. We have more access to technology than we've ever had. And it actually seems that there's more people struggling than there ever were. And it's because we are overly reliant on the mind game. We are overly reliant on trying to control things through our five senses instead of using this larger part of us, which is our energy. Right? So where does this come from? Like where do our thoughts and our feelings and everything come from? Well, we're going to talk about identity, conditioning, and beliefs, right? So our beliefs are formed. So if you think about it this way, when we are babies, right? When we come into the world, we don't have thoughts. Right? We don't have beliefs. We don't have big feelings, right? Like that's not it for us. Okay. Let's talk about identity, conditioning, and beliefs. So let's talk about how, first and foremost, how our beliefs are formed. We are not born with our beliefs. We aren't born with beliefs about money. We're not born with beliefs about success. We're not born with beliefs about work. We absorb them. Right? We absorb them through our family, through our culture, through our industry, and real estate in particular. You all were given some really nasty beliefs about your industry, right? Our beliefs are coming from our past experiences. So we didn't naturally come out thinking that money was hard to make. We were taught that. We didn't naturally come out thinking that successful people were assholes. We were taught that. We didn't naturally come out thinking that we had to earn every single dollar that we made through suffering and sacrifice. We were taught that. Which means that you can choose different beliefs. A belief is just a thought that you've thought so many times that you think it's true. And because you think it's true, it is true for you. But what's really wild is that a lot of our beliefs have helped us succeed, right? Like not all of this is bad, right? In fact, none of it's bad. I really try to suspend any feelings of good or bad either way, but they're not all wrong. But some of these beliefs are now limiting the ease you're available for. If you think you have to work hard to be successful, your nervous system doesn't want it to be easy, right? If you think that making money has to, like you can make a lot of money, but you have to torture yourself to do it, it's going to limit your enjoyment that you can have, right? If you think that money comes and money goes and all that, then sustainability is going to be a problem for you. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, we're going to look into what are some of these beliefs in this relationship that we have that is limiting us in some ways, right? So, but what I also want to tell you about this is as we start to think about these beliefs and our ideas and what are some of these things, are they helping us? Are they hurting us? The goal here is awareness, not judgment, right? I just want you to be aware that, oh yeah, no, I do have a bad habit of when I scroll past successful people on social media, I say something snarky. Which is a problem because if I want to be a successful person and I'm throwing snark at successful people, I'm not an energetic match for that, right? So we're not looking for judgment. We're looking for awareness. What beliefs do we have that aren't serving us? What beliefs do we have about money, about success, about achievement, about our ability to be really great business owners? Okay. But this comes from being learned. And the reason why I tell you this is because if you learn one set of beliefs, you can learn different sets of beliefs, right? You can learn something different. But what I also really want to tell you is that the goal of this is not to eliminate your ambition, right? We are actually just questioning what we're operating from. I'm not asking you, any of you, to turn down what you want. In fact, I probably think most of you are very capable of turning it up way higher than you're giving yourself credit to. That's just from personal experience and working with, at this point in time, hundreds and hundreds of high achievers. Most of us are operating from a frequency, from an energy so far below what our potential is, it's bananas. Okay? So how do we create results? How do we change our results? So we have really kind of broken apart our identity, our conditioning, mind game versus energy game. We've talked about our conditioning. So how do we change our results? Because that's what we want to do here. What is actually the energy game? How do I play this game, right? As I mentioned before, our results are not created through force. They're created through energetic alignment, right? Say it again. Results are not created through force. Action is actually the last part of the equation. They're actually created through energetic alignment. But the first thing I need you to do before we can create any result is I need you to get really clear on what you actually want. Okay? Not what you should want, not what looks good on paper, not what might get you closer to that one thing that you want in 20 years from now. What do you actually want? I'm going to tell you a little bit. So my story is that money has always been my thing. I started my sales career. I started selling radio advertising in Orlando, Florida when I was 21. I got into sales enablement, building and training sales organizations and startups, eventually became a full-time entrepreneur in 2019. But I grew up in a blue-collar family. We were an upper middle class blue-collar family, but my dad was, he was a shift worker, an hourly worker. He drove a truck. And so it was never a matter of whether or not we had the money to do the things. It was how much overtime was dad going to have to work? So you can play this competitive sport, but dad's going to have to work a couple of extra shifts, right? We can go on this vacation, but we're going to have to fundraise. We're going to have to do this. So again, my belief system was very much that I could have whatever I wanted, but I had to work really hard for it. There was some suffering, some sacrificing, some groveling, some begging that had to happen to get it, right? So what I grew up was believing that money could solve all the problems. If we just had enough money, dad wouldn't have to work so hard. If we just had enough money, I wouldn't have to beg people for money. If I just had enough money, I could fix this and I could fix this and I can fix this. So when you asked me at some point in time, Ryan, what do you want? I would be like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. I want more money than I know what to do with, right? And so for years of my life, what do you want more money? What do you want more money? What do you want more money? Well, there's a couple things happening here. First and foremost, right? The want for more money very often is coming from a place of not having enough money, right? The energy of I want more money naturally in and of itself says, I don't have enough money. So we're energetically off anyway, but we don't actually want the things that we want. I don't want a pile of money. I don't want to open my bank account and see a whole bunch of zeros. What I want is actually a life that I love. I want to do work that I love with clients that I love. I want to spend time with the man that I love and the children that I love. I want to go on adventures. I want to travel. I want to have cool, meaningful conversations. I want to change people's lives in beautiful ways. I want to see more of this world. I just want to experience everything that nature has to offer and meeting cool people has to offer. That's what I really want out of life. But for decades, I would have told you I want to be rich because I thought I had to be rich in order to have that life. I thought that I had to have the money first, then I could have that life of freedom, of adventure, of all these other things, right? Then I could have that. But the challenge with that is that then puts a limitation to what I want. And when I started doing this work, when I was introduced to energy work back in 2020, 2021, I actually learned that I could have the life that I wanted now. I didn't have to be a millionaire to do work that I love with people that I love. I didn't have to be a millionaire to adventure and see cool places. I didn't have to be a millionaire to have cool conversations with people. That wasn't true. I could just build a business and a life that supported that now and then build the millions as I go. Right? So when I say get clear on what you want, get clear on this business that you're building, get clear on the way that you are doing this, I want you to really think about it. What do you want? What is the point? What is the point? And then from there, we're going to understand the frequency of that desire. How does this version of life or business feel? You heard me when I was talking about what I want and what I create. How does that feel? It feels good, right? It feels fun. It feels light. It feels expansive. It feels exciting. It feels full of passion, full of interest, full of people that I like really thoughtful and learning a lot of things. It feels really good. It feels really good. So to me, right, the frequency of the life that I'm building, that's what it feels like. Okay. And then the final step of the process is become an energetic match to it, right? So the first step, get clear on what you actually want, and it's not a pile of money. Step 2, understand how that feels. And then number 3, feel that feeling as often as possible. Feel that feeling as often as possible. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit more about energy and then I'm going to tell you about my Wi Fi signal. So let's talk about energy. I want you to close your eyes. Okay. Because some of you might be thinking, like, this sounds fun, but kind of weird. I don't know if I'm doing this right. So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to imagine the life that you're building, right? You've done some business planning for this year. Like you have some goals written down on paper. You know what you want. Like close your eyes. Close your eyes and I want you to picture the things that you think are going to happen and picture maybe it's a house, maybe it's a car, maybe it's conversations with clients, like maybe it's the vacation you want to go on. Picture it, right? And as you picture it, I want you to like, can you feel it in your body? Can you feel that feeling in your body? Can you feel that feeling in your body of closing on that property? Can you feel that feeling in your body of, being able to cut that check you wanted? Like, can you feel that? That is energy. But what I want to point out to you about this that is so exciting is that nothing outside of you has changed. Zip, zilch, zero has changed. You still have the exact same amount of money in your bank account as you did 30 seconds ago. But your energy has changed. Your energy has changed. You have shifted your energy from wherever you were before we started this exercise to now feeling what it feels like to actually build the business that you want to build. That's what it means to become an energetic match. You can choose to feel that feeling whenever, wherever, however you want to. Okay? I call this your Wi-Fi signal. That energy we just talked about is a Wi-Fi signal. The Wi-Fi signal, your results are a reflection of your Wi-Fi signal, right? Because your Wi-Fi signal is the law of vibration and so your Wi-Fi signal is your vibration and the law of attraction is bringing you things that are on that same frequency, right? And the signal, your Wi-Fi signal is made up of four things, okay? It's made up of your identity. It's made up of your thoughts, it's made up of your feelings, and it's made up of your actions. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through those next four things, probably for a little while, and then I'm going to give you some tools and some resources and some how-tos. Okay, so our Wi-Fi signal is what is impacting our results, everything about it. Okay, so it starts with our identity, and there's an entire section on identity. There's an entire session on identity. So I'm not going to go too deep here, but there is something really foundational here that's important. How you see yourself matters because how you see yourself, your identity is actually driving your behavior. So if you see yourself as a successful real estate agent, as you see yourself as somebody who wins, if you see yourself as somebody, of course, people want to work with you, and of course, people like you, and of course, they love to pay your full fee, and of course they love to refer you to their friends and family, and of course they love to come to your events, and of course they think you're amazing, right? Like if that's the identity that you have is of course people want to work with me, of course they like me, yes please, more please, right? That identity is going to drive your behavior and your behavior is going to drive your outcome versus if your identity is coming from a place of I hope they like me. I hope they pick me. I hope I don't screw this up. I hope they don't ask me to negotiate my commission. I hope they choose me as their agent. I hope they don't find my marketing annoying, right? Do you see the difference? The identity that you bring to the conversation, to the meeting, to your marketing, to your negotiations matters. How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? And I can answer that for you, but it is the first piece of kind of homework I'm going to give you is I want you to start thinking about like, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself? Like when you look at the goals that you've written down for the years, if you think of the reason why you've chosen real estate, the reason why you've chose Kansas City Realty, the reason why you're building the business that you're building, what is the identity of the person who's actually winning? Because what I discovered for myself as well, I wanted a really big business. My identity didn't match that because I had accidentally adopted the identity of somebody who didn't hit her goals. See, I grew up in the corporate world where we were taught how to create SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? And every year your boss would sit you down because I was in sales and they'd be like, what's your goal for the year? How much money do you want to make? What does that look like? And I would do that. And then they would give me my budget for the year that was completely made up based on decisions I didn't make and yada, 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 yada. And that's how it went. Yay. And I never hit those goals. I pretty infrequently hit my goals. I can say over the years, if I had to average it out, I probably actually hit the goals that I wrote down for myself 25 to 30% of the time. For literally almost 15 years, 30% of the time, right? So I accidentally built an identity as somebody who didn't hit their goals because I wrote goals down and I didn't. But it wasn't because I couldn't hit my goals. It's because the goals weren't aligned with me, right? They were the company's goals. They were goals that I thought that I should have. They were goals that I thought were going to buy me the life that I thought was finally going to make me happy. My identity didn't match what I was trying to build. So again, I'm going to spend a lot of time on identity, but I want you to start thinking about how do I see myself? And we'll go way deeper into this in that teaching, okay? So the next thing, aside from our identity, so I want you to assume as I go through thoughts, feelings, and actions and the creation equation and how we put energy out into the world, I want you to assume that you now have an identity of somebody who is running the business that you said you want to run this year. Okay. So identity locked, right? So now the next thing we're focused on is our thoughts. Our thoughts. What are we thinking about? And I understand that we think 70,000 thoughts a day. So what we're actually talking about is both our thoughts and our feelings. But both our thoughts and our feelings, and especially together, have a frequency. They emit a frequency. So if I think that business is hard and I think that the market is shit and I think that being a real estate agent is exhausting and I think that nobody wants to pay my rates, how do I feel? I feel like crap. I feel like, why bother? I feel like, what's the point anyway? Right? But if I think I love running a business. I love being a real estate agent. It is the best career that I've ever had. And I love serving clients and I love how good I am at my job. How do I feel? I feel optimistic. I feel excited, right? Our thoughts and our feelings are actually what is creating that frequency. And our thoughts and our feelings are actually then fueling the action that we take. But most of the time, we think a lot about what we don't want. I hope this deal doesn't fall through. I hope they don't want to negotiate my commission. I hope they don't, want to talk to other agents and I'm the only agent that they're choosing. I hope that they don't want to da-da-da-da-da-da. We spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we wish that we would not happen and we don't understand why they're happening. Your thoughts are creating your feelings, which is emitting this frequency, which is what you're getting back. So if you want to change your experience of success, money, business, you have to change the way you're thinking. The way I talk about this is it's a story. Most of our thoughts are made up anyway, right? Actually, all of our thoughts are made up. Let's not kid, right? All of our thoughts are made up. They're just made up. We're just thinking to think. We think we have the right idea. We think this and we think that. And again, we talked about, where does our programming come from, right? It comes from our experiences. It comes from our parents. 95% of what we think is subconscious. What that means is we're thinking it on autopilot because we've just thought it so many times. We've just thought it so many times. So if we don't consciously make a choice to think our thoughts intentionally, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, right, then we are just going to keep creating the same results over and over and over again. That's why so many people explain their lives to me like Groundhog Day. Like, Ryan, it doesn't matter what I do, how many different strategies I try, how many different coaches I hire, how many different brokerages I've been to, my results won't change. It's because the energy you're running is the same every single day. Wherever you go, there you are. Right? Have you heard that before? You can go from job to job to job to job to job, but the results aren't going to change if your energy doesn't change, if your thoughts don't change. If you're thinking the same thoughts sitting in this job than you are that job, you're going to create the same results. The world tells us differently, right? I'm not happy with my results. I've got to change something outside of me. I got to ask you, how's this working out for you? Because for me, it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Let's be real honest, right? So we need to start telling a different story. We need to start consciously thinking about what we're thinking about, right? Most of us are thinking to our desires, right? So let's think of it like, say you want to make $250,000 this year, $500,000 this year, $1 million this year. I don't know, right? And you've got $1 million. I'm going to say for funsies, $1 million, because why not? You've got $1 million right here, right? And you're down here and you're looking up to $1 million and you're like, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? This is going to be hard. Like, it feels like there's this huge gap between you and $1 million, right? I call that thinking two. So I'm down here, that's over there, and I've got to get there, right? I want you to start thinking from. Let's make the assumption that it is a foregone conclusion that everything that you want is done, right? The business that you're building, the goals that you've set, like, we've already locked in your identity, like, we're good to go here. It is inevitable that everything that you wrote down is happening. I want you to start thinking from that place. If I knew that every single thing that I wanted was done, how would I think? Would I be thinking, how am I going to do that? I don't know how to do this. Why is this so hard? Why is this happening faster? Why is this taking so long? Why is that person farther ahead than me? Why does her marketing look better than mine? Why does that person choose that realtor instead of me? They should be working with me. Those are not thoughts of somebody who is confident that they're going to hit their goals, right? So this Wi-Fi signal that we're putting out is so often full of mixed energy. It's so often full of, I want it, but, I want it, but, I want it, but. And then on top of that constant thought loop, then our feelings are stress and anxiety and overwhelm and frustration. And we wake up thinking about work and we go to bed thinking about work. And some days we wake up and we think, what's the friggin' point? Because I've been working my ass off for I don't know how long and the results haven't changed, right? Do you see how our thoughts and our feelings are creating this Wi-Fi signal? And now you can probably see why the results don't match. And even if you are somebody you're like, well, I hit the goals, but does it feel good? Because I told you at the beginning of this, my goal here isn't to just help you hit the goals you set for yourself. I want it to feel good. Because I have plenty of clients who come to me that are winning in business, but their clients are jerks. Every deal is like a slog, right? Everything has a hiccup in it somewhere. The sky is always falling. So yeah, they're hitting their goals. They're selling their 20 units a year, but they're miserable. Same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're hitting your goals and unhappy or not hitting your goals. If those two things aren't happening, if you're not hitting your goals and you're not obsessed with your life, something is out of alignment. Your Wi-Fi signal is off, but you have control over the Wi-Fi signal. We started with identity. We get to think about what we think about. And when we think about what we want to think about, we feel good. And then from there, we take action. Action is the final piece. Action is the final piece of the puzzle, and it is the action that you can't not do, because when you feel good, when you're aligned, when you're locked in on it is inevitable that I'm going to hit this goal for this year, the action that you take is powerful and effective. My favorite thought to teach my clients is that I get more done in 30 minutes than people do in 3 hours. Screw that. I get more done in 3 hours than people do in 30 days. Like, my action, the lightest touch creates amazing results because my energy is that good. Like, how does that feel in your body, right? So this is all impacting your Wi-Fi signal. You're driving around, you're doing dishes, you're folding laundry, you're making kids lunches, you're whatever it is that you do that's not thoughtful. Start thinking on purpose. Start thinking on purpose. I'm going to give you an exercise here in a little bit, but start choosing your thoughts. This will feel unnatural at first, but you get to choose your thoughts. And when you choose thoughts that are exciting and they feel fun, you're going to feel better, right? And when your thoughts feel good and your energy feels good and you're taking action from an inspired space, your Wi-Fi signal is doing more of the work and you need to do less of the physical work. Right? So the business is growing, but you're not grinding, right? The clients are coming, but you're not begging. That's what happens. We want a Wi-Fi signal that is a match for all the money we want to make, but exactly how we want it to feel. That's why there are people in the same market, in the same brokerages that have different experiences. It's because their signal is different. If you change your signal, you will change your results. When you change the way that you start thinking about your business, when you start thinking, I think one of the most beautiful things that Dan and Melissa did here was have you start thinking like business owners. Right? Think like a business owner. How do business owners think? Right? And if you don't know, like, okay, well, I'm a business owner now. How do I want to think? I want to think that business is easy. I want to think that business is my way of giving back to the world. I want to think of business as a really incredible way to create great experiences for my family, puts me in the driver's seat of my life, and allows me to serve people I really love. Right? Like, how do we want to think about the things in our life? Right? You get to choose, because most of us, again, what we think about the things in our life, they aren't even ours. They're our parents. They're the industries. You get to choose how you think about the things in your life. So change the way you think about business. Change the way you think about success. Change the way you think about money. Change the way you think about the clients that you serve. When you change the way you think, you will change the way you feel, and then you will change the way you show up. All of that works together. It changes that Wi-Fi signal. So now your frequency is one of business, money, fun, success, but it's people you like working with, people who love to refer you to their friends. The business grows easily. And everyone's looking at you being like, what are they doing? What is that person doing? That person's killing it, right? All you've done is change your signal, change your life. Okay. Big deep breath. I know I've given you a lot. I know your brain has a lot of questions. I'm going to have an opportunity. We're going to do that, but we're going to land the plane. I'm going to give you some action items and then we'll wrap up. Okay. The number one non-negotiable of this journey, of this process, is nervous system regulation. I want to be very clear here. Nervous system regulation is not optional, okay? Nervous system regulation is not just self-care. It's actually foundational. Because if you are more energy than you are matter, your nervous system is actually what is driving your Wi-Fi signal. So if you are dysregulated, whether you are in fight or flight or whether you are in fawn or freeze, meaning like you can't even take action, you know what I'm saying? Either one of those is not putting out the signal that matches that business that you want to run. Stress, pressure, dysregulation impact everything. Our decision-making, right? You make really big, really powerful decisions for your clients. You should probably do that from a regulated nervous system, right? This is also going to impact your client interactions, right? Your ability to respond instead of react. So many people are reactionary. I know you've experienced that in negotiations with people. Maybe you're one of those people where you get defensive every time and you react from a place of lack or a place of defensiveness or frustration instead of thinking and responding, right? So when our nervous system is regulation, we have space, right? Our performance, right? right? How we show up in the world, burnout, all of this is being impacted by our nervous system. A dysregulated nervous system creates reactive business owners, okay? So I'm going to give you some really simple, really accessible tools. I'm going to give you, I think it's 5, and I want you to choose one. I want you to choose one. I know y'all, you're overachievers and you're like, I'm going to do all 800 of these. Pick one, okay? The one that changed my life the most was walking outside without my headphones. I don't care how cold it is outside. I am outside 85% of the time. If it's raining, it's a no. And if it's cold and windy, it's a no. Otherwise, I'm outside. Okay. Walking outside without headphones, it does a couple of different things for you. First and foremost, it removes the distraction, right? Remember, reacting to our phones, to our text messages, to our emails. As real estate agents, you were somehow sold the lie that you need to be on call 100% of the time, which we'll talk about that in another lesson, another teaching. But walking outside without your headphones in nature, it gets you in tune with nature, right? Gets you in tune with the natural ebb and flow of the world, right? Which is going to naturally calm your body. Find that safety of, the trees grow no matter what, right? The trees aren't mad right now that they're naked. It's January as I'm recording this, right? Like the tree doesn't think it's not good enough because it doesn't have leaves. It's just winter, right? But I find that being outside, the fresh air, breathing really deeply, noticing the things around you, getting present, 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day. Okay. For me, I walk 30 minutes to an hour every day. I do half my time with headphones, half my time without. That's just how that works best for me. Okay. That was where I started. From there, I moved into breath work. So I'm going to talk about breath work and meditation at the same time. In the beginning, it was meditate, meditate, meditate. Everybody told me to meditate. And I had a hard time meditating because sitting still and turning off my brain was not something I knew how to do. Well, come to find out, that's not actually the point of meditation. Meditation is not designed for you to sit still and shut your brain off. It's actually designed so that you observe your thoughts. Meditation is designed for you to separate yourselves from your thoughts so you can start to observe them. Remember, we think 70,000 thoughts a day, 95% of them on autopilot. So there's probably some thoughts that are sabotaging you in there that you don't even realize are happening. So the more we slow ourselves down and pay attention to what we're thinking, we can actually see some of our limiting beliefs, some of the stories that we have, some of the things that are messing with our Wi-Fi signal and making it so we're not an energetic match to what it is we desire. Okay. I want you to think about it from that perspective. So, but for me, it was breath work. I found breath work. It's an active meditation. Somebody's telling you when to breathe in, when to breathe out. There's usually really fun music, and it just helped me a little bit more. And now I can meditate. Now I can meditate for 20 or 30 minutes, but in the beginning I couldn't. So I started with breath work. I started on YouTube with a free resource. It's called Breathe with Sandy. He does have paid options, but his breath work is really incredible. He has everything from like 3 to 5 minute things up to like 90-minute things. Walk before you can run. Don't try to do a 90-minute breathwork journey if you haven't done a 20-minute one, right? But go through, they'll tell you what they're for and what they're good at. I literally do a breathwork session, journey, whatever, every day, sometimes twice a day. I teach my kids to breathe. I think this is so powerful. It is the easiest way in the world. Mindfulness, nervous system regulation, time with yourself, learning to hear your thoughts. It's incredible across the board, right? So it's a really good one. Walking with no headphones, that's where I started. Then from there, breathwork, from there, meditation. Similar, you can find guided meditations online. There's a lot of resources available for that. This is not my area of expertise. These are just the tools. You guys do research, choose the tool that feels most aligned for you. The fourth one for me is music. Makes sense, right? I want to change my energy. What is music? Sound waves, right? What are sound waves? Frequency, right? So I look for music that feels good. I literally have feel good playlists on Spotify all over my phone. Some are really fun and upbeat. Some are more like chill and meditation or like journaling session type style of music, but I have playlists and I use them often. So if I'm ever feeling anxious or overwhelmed or just overstimulated, I can turn on my favorite song and jam out, or like I just always listen to really chill music when I'm cooking dinner and things like that just chill. Cooking dinner. I don't cook. Let's not kid. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm usually cleaning up after dinner because my partner cooks, right? But music has been a big part of that. It definitely impacts my energy. It's an easy thing to do. You can do it in the car. You can do it from meeting to meeting, right? It's a really easy way to be mindful of how you're feeling, right? If the music makes you feel angsty because it's screaming at you, you should turn it off and listen to something else. And then the fifth and final one is stretching. So naturally, yoga is a big part of mindfulness. It's literally what yoga is rooted in. I love that for yoga. I just never really got into yoga. I've tried multiple times in my life and it's never resonated, but I found just regular stretching, athletic stretching. I use the Peloton app. During COVID, I bought a Lululemon mirror, and the mirror Lululemon sold their list to Peloton. So the mirror actually doesn't work anymore, and there's nobody that can fix it because they don't make them anymore. But anyway, I still use the Peloton app because they have so many great workouts, but one of them they have is stretching, and they have anywhere from like 10 to 30-minute stretch sessions. And so I will tend to do those mid-afternoon, like if I've just had a busy day and I got a lot going on and my energy feels and I just need to kind of come back to my body, but I know I can't sit still, I'll do like a quick 10-minute stretch. But really the point of nervous system regulation is to find safety in our body. What we're going for is calm, safe, right? Like shoulders out of our ears. If you can feel it in your shoulders, you can feel it in your your jaw, right? Like we're looking to be able to feel our butt in the chair, right? We're looking to be able to feel our fingertips. That's nervous system regulation. Again, I'm calm, I'm in charge, I'm making decisions from a powerful place. I'm not reactionary. So one of those exercises, pick one, do it every single day. Okay. Make a commitment. I think it's a great job for those of you within the office to make this an accountability practice of some way, shape, or form. Find tools and resources together. This is a great part of doing this work as a community. But nervous system regulation, it will not just change your business. It will not just make you more money. It will change your life. It will make you a better wife, a better husband, a better father, a better mother, a better realtor, a better negotiator. It will change everything in your life. I speak from very personal experience. That's why I do it every day, multiple times a day. Right. And then the second tool I want to give you is I want you to start a teacher of mine, a manifestation teacher of mine named Abraham. So it's Esther Hicks channels an entity called Abraham. And they call it segment intending. And the way I understand segment intending is like intentional decision making. Decide ahead of time how you want things to go. See, most of the world, we enter situations completely unconsciously, right? Like we wander into meetings and we're on our phones and we're just going through the day and stuff's just coming at us. We're on our phones, we're in our emails, the phone's ringing, we go into the meeting. We're not intentionally deciding, how do I feel? Right? We're not present. We're just going and going and going. And it feels like the life is just coming at us full speed ahead, right? What I want you to start doing is I want you to start consciously deciding ahead of time the energy you're going to bring into anything, right? Energy you bring into your meetings, energy you bring into conversations, energy you bring into the office, right? Decide ahead of time, how do you want things to feel? So the way that this shows up in my life, like when I get up in the morning, my first hour of my day is for me, right? I do all of my breath work and my journal and I have a cup of coffee and I read a book. And I do it every day, but every day I decide that it's going to feel peaceful and it's going to feel amazing and it's going to feel so good to take care of myself. And then, from there I go and I work out and then I decide how that's going to feel. My workout's going to feel strong and it's going to feel powerful. It's going to feel like I take really great care of my body because I'm the asset. I'm the one building this business, right? I'm constantly deciding how I want it to feel. When I'm waiting for my kids to come home from school, right? Like I sit down and I take a couple of minutes and I say, okay, I want to feel excited to see them. I want to feel like a safe place for them. I want to feel them to feel open. I want them to feel like they could share about their day with me. I want them to feel like they know how glad I am for them to be home. And imagine how good that feels. Because I know when my kids were littler, before I found this work, I didn't do this. And so they came home and my energy was crazy and their energy was crazy and our nights felt chaotic and it was not a lot of fun, right? Decide ahead of time when you're going into a meeting with a client, you want to feel present, you want to feel grounded, you want things to work out for the highest and best. You want clients who feel really aligned. You want to feel excited about talking to this person, right? Decide ahead of time how you want things to go because that expectation sets your energy. Life is happening through you, not to you. Your energy sets the tone. So if you set that expectation, the tone shapes the experience and then the experience is going to shape the results. What's beautiful about this is we're not looking to control other people with this. I think that this is important. This is not an exercise in control. It's an exercise in leadership, right? Leaders have to be non-reactionary, right? We can't react. You guys are negotiators. You are walking people through one of the most expensive transactions they are going to make in their entire lives. You can't be a hot mess. And if you are, you'll have a hard time growing a business, right? Self-leadership is the most powerful thing you can do. So deciding ahead of time, how am I showing up? Who am I being? What is the energy that I'm bringing? How do I want this other person to feel in interaction with me? And even if you only start doing this a little bit and start intentionally pre-paving the energy you want to feel, you will notice a difference in the way you interact with the world. Remember, at the beginning of this, I told you that my goal is for you to change your relationship with success, with money, with all of these things. But it starts with making a decision. How do I want to experience success? How do I want to experience money? How do I want to experience this? And guys, we're going to drill down into this over the next couple of weeks. But this is really, really, really important and exciting and foundational work. I'm going to encourage you to do a couple of different things. I'm actually going to encourage you to listen to this more than once. And I know you're thinking, Ryan, you have been talking for 45 minutes and you talk really fast. I know. That's why I want you to listen to this more than once because you didn't get everything. You didn't hear everything. Not everything hit. You were thinking about the last thing. And I said, when I said this thing, I want you guys to start thinking about this. You're going to get 6 of these teachings. I want you to start thinking about listening to them over and over and over again. I once had a mentor who taught me that. He was like, so often we're looking to consume more things instead of consuming the same things over and over. And that really changed things for me. When I really started to study universal law and study this information and really drill down deep instead of just trying to consume more books and more podcasts and more ideas. So one of the things I will tell you is I want you to listen to this multiple times. Listen to it until it makes sense. Listen to it and feel how it feels in your body. Listen to it and feel what comes up for you. That's really, really an important part of this, okay? What do you have at the end of this training, right? What do you have at the end of this teaching? You now understand the energy game. You now understand the law of vibration and the law of attraction, right? And you can now see how energy impacts results. In fact, you're probably looking back over your life, realizing why a lot of things look the way they look, why a lot of things feel the way they feel, why a lot of things played out the way that they played out. Because you start thinking about, oh, yeah, if I was showing up in my business like nobody wants to pay me, I can see why people were constantly trying to negotiate my rates, right? You can see how, yeah, no, I'm always stressed out and anxious. And it's no wonder that all of my deals, well, I get plenty of them, they're a real shit show, right? You now have tools to regulate stress and pressure. This is going to change everything in your life, and you can now decide ahead of time how you want to feel. Okay. The way that you likely feel right now, I want you to feel more grounded. I want you to feel more focused. I want you to feel more self-led because I mean, you have infinitely more control over your results than you think that you do when you learn to play the energy game, when you learn to control your Wi-Fi signal. Because quite frankly, your Wi-Fi signal is the only thing you have any control over. Your identity, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are actually the only thing you can control, right? Those are the only things you can't control the market. You can't control interest rates. You can't control buyers. You can't control sellers. You can't control whether or not corporations come in and buy buildings. You can't control whether they build in their apartment complex or not. None of that is in your control. But those are the things we spend a lot of time thinking about instead of thinking about what do I have control over? You have control over how you see yourself. You have control over the thoughts that you think. You have control over the feelings that you feel, and you have control over the actions that you take. You have control over the creation tools in your hands when you learn to play a different game. Suspend your need for results. Be willing to change your beliefs. Start regulating your nervous system every single day. Start deciding ahead of time how things are going to feel. And just the tiniest tweaks, you're going to start to see it. This session lays the foundation. Everything moving forward is going to build on this understanding. Okay. I know what's coming up for you right now. I know there's probably a lot of questions and a lot coming up in your body, but yeah, but yeah, but yeah, I know. We're going to get there. I promise you we're going to get there. Okay. This work is big. This work is important. This work will change your life, not just your business. Take it seriously. I tell people all the time, do this work like your life depends on it, because I believe that it does. Because you're going to live this life anyway. You're going to be a realtor anyway. You're going to run a business anyway. Do you want it to be heavy and hard and take forever and suffer and sacrifice and barely scrape by? Or do you want to thrive? Have a business that you love, do work that you love, make a shit ton of money, serve people who respect you and love to pay your rates, work with clients that you like. And when you're not working, you have a life that you love. If you do this work like your life depends on it, regulate your nervous system, be mindful of the thoughts that you're thinking and the feelings that you're feeling, you get a life that you are obsessed with. You can be, do, and have whatever you want. I'll see you in the next one.